We have the whole crew here for a discussion on Tennessee's upcoming football season. We're about to enter the summer months of training for Tennessee, everybody getting back on campus, I believe this weekend, to begin or continue summer workouts. So we're back to the expectation conversation. Tennessee went to the college football playoff this past year, went 10-2 in the regular season to get there. Chuck, I'll begin with you. Let me ask you this. If Tennessee's goal is to get back to the college football playoff, I don't think anybody's denying that's the goal, right? To at least get back and then find more success in the playoff. What is the minimum requirement? Meaning, if you look around the SEC, project maybe what those teams are going to do, what does Tennessee need to do? What record does Tennessee need to get back?
If you look back last year, right, you were in the 8-9 seed game with 10 wins. So that pretty much tells me minimum requirement, I'm saying 10. Now, I'm hearing more and more 9-3 may be in the mix based on who you beat. But if I'm looking at it from a Tennessee perspective, and I'm just using last year as my measuring stick, I'm saying, guys, I think you're probably going to need to win 10.
I'll go 10-2, and I'll take it a step further. You need to do something you haven't done since Casey Clausen was the quarterback here. You got to win at Bama, or you got to win at Florida. I just don't think beating Georgia here at home is on the table. So 10-2 with a loss to Georgia and a loss to you pick Bama or Florida. Might I recommend maybe getting that win in Tuscaloosa, seeing how things happen in November, especially when you play Florida?
Agree?
Yeah, no, it's 10-2 is the answer, but I also think I think you can get there by hook or by crook. It doesn't matter who you beat, who you lose to, because if you lose one you're not supposed to, that means you beat one of Alabama or Georgia probably, right? So you have to go 10-2. That's the minimum requirement, I think, for this. You'd feel better about 11-1, but it does seem like the SEC cannibalized itself in a way that it normally doesn't, at least that second tier of the SEC. Mm-hmm. So I think if you go 10-2, you feel like you have a puncher's chance to get in. Anybody 10-2 that was in the SEC was getting in last year. So as long as you're 10-2, I feel like you're getting in this year. Mm-hmm.
I hate to just echo everybody else, but I think it's 10-2 also. Now at first I thought, all right, they have to do what Tyler said. They have to break one of those streaks. But then their schedule and the other SEC schedules, I think in the toughness of this league, it brings everybody else down just a notch to where even if you don't have one of the toughest SEC schedules, Tennessee's probably going to be middle of the pack to bottom quarter, somewhere around there in terms of toughest SEC schedules. I think if you do lose to Alabama and Georgia and you don't break those streaks, or Florida, and if you don't break those streaks and say you beat an Alabama, I think it'll be fine. I think any combination of those losses ending up in 10-2, because the league will be very difficult this year and a little bit closer together, I do think 10-2 would probably get you there.
I will say one thing, though. I'm not going to automatically say you're not going to beat Georgia here. If you want to go to the playoffs, that's the game you need to win.
Yeah, but
that takes some of the pressure off going to Alabama and going to Florida, where you have not won since the early 2000s. I think you got a puncher's chance. I think you got a decent chance at home against Georgia.
What week do they play Georgia?
September, right?
If that game was October, November, I'd say there's a chance. I don't think you're going to have certain men in the secondary back, and there's a chance that Joey Aguilar maybe isn't completely ready to go. What are we now, 6 days away? I have concerns if Joey Aguilar is going to be ready for Syracuse. That means I've got questions if he's going to be ready for Georgia.
And I agree with them. I agree with Chuck that if you beat Georgia at 10-2, I feel like you're very much in. Yes. I do have a concern that, to me, again, that's the minimum requirement. I don't know that you're guaranteed to get in at 10-2 because Ole Miss plays a ridiculously easy schedule. Missouri plays a ridiculously easy schedule. Mm-hmm. So if they don't weigh strength of schedule like they didn't weigh strength of schedule last year, Notre Dame, Indiana, then you could be 10-2 and still not get in, but that is the minimum requirement.
I was going to ask, are we guaranteeing Tennessee a spot at 10-2? Last year, if Ole Miss doesn't blow a game, let's say they just beat Kentucky at home and they're 10-2, Bama doesn't blow it against Oklahoma, that would have made things more interesting, right? In the 10-2 SEC conversation. Now, Oklahoma is expected to be a better team. You beat Oklahoma at home this year and go 10-2. Maybe your resume is a little better than it was this past season, but resumes could be interesting within the conference this year if you have a bunch of 10-2 teams.
I'm bullish on the Big 12 this year. I think they get 2 teams in. They're that good. Notre Dame, 4 from the Big 10, 4 from the SEC. I just did the math. That's 11.
So who's 12?
The group of 5.
No, ACC.
Oh, ACC getting 1?
Yeah.
And they could get 2 as well. That's why I think the Big Ten, the SEC needs to be prepared
Yeah.
One of those conferences might only get 3 teams in this year.
That's the right question. Will 10-2 guarantee you a spot? No.
Well,
does
no, there are no guarantees in life.
Yeah.
Right. This is likely the last 12-team playoff, likely going to 16. Again, one of the conversations we haven't even gotten to today
Yeah.
of the topics that is being covered right now in the world of college football. And Will, you mentioned you could have a slip up. I wouldn't recommend that in terms of like last year's Arkansas,
Yeah.
because of the 2 road games at Bama, at Florida. I agree with you that let's say they lose at Kentucky, but they go 3-1 against Georgia, Bama, Oklahoma, Florida. I think they're still probably in.
Yeah.
I don't love their chances to go 3-1.
And I
in
think
those big
John
4.
Pennington might want somebody to point out 8-4 may be more likely than 10-2. And I wouldn't say you're automatically going to beat Oklahoma here either. But
Tyler,
I do
the
think
over-under
8-4
win numbers-
for this Tennessee football team with
Yeah.
so many holes as they have, which we're going to be talking about later in the show, I think 8-4 is more likely than 10-2.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying that they're going to go 10-2 just in that
What has to
hypothetical
happen, yeah.
scenario to get there.
They're not in at 8-4.
They're
The
definitely not in
8.5
it.
is the number. Is that currently where the win total still is?
Heavy on the over for the juice.
Yeah, but it was in that range last year. Correct.
Right, exactly.
Josh Heupel has surpassed his win total each of the first 4 years set on Vegas, depending on where you shop. He's 4 for 4. So I see it at 8.5. History tells us you should take the over, but I'll take a step back if you've got some 9.5 tickets that were out there before Nico left at the transfer portal.
Well, that ticket's gone.